We have found out where the no fear Jaguars are headed next week. I'll tell you more about that and why Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid better watch out. We'll do it today here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What is happening? I'm Tony Wiggins, your host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. We're at your team every day, and we thank you for making us your first listen. I will remind you again that we are free on all platforms. Make sure you like and subscribe and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. What's going on, man? I know folks are wondering how we feeling. By the way, continue thanking for y'all's well wishes. I am feeling better. My lungs passed the test. Of course, I'm breathing easier, talking clearer. So I'm glad to be back to doing this. I'm still doing mental cartwheels and emotional cartwheels over the Jaguars comeback from a 27-0 deficit to the Chargers. If you heard my postcast, you knew I was speechless. And even right now, I'm still blown away. I just watched a segment on TV about it on ESPN, and it just doesn't do it justice to know that I was in the building and I was there and I was a witness to the Jaguars winning that wild card matchup or that first round matchup. We won our division. But we got a tough task. We found out yesterday that the Jags will go to Kansas City. And as much as, we're proud of how far they came from behind the other day and how they did not allow the negativity from the first half to affect them in the second half, we can't do that. Cannot make a habit of it. You cannot continue to do that. So we'll make sure that we discuss that today. We'll give some attaboys and some kudos to some people who did some things that might go up under the radar because I know everyone wants to focus on Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence. And good, because they need to be focused on. And then in segment 3, talk about things that have to happen, people that have to be stopped this weekend in Kansas City. That's the first half of segment 3. Then we're going to talk about whether y'all are going, and I need somebody to give me a barbecue report card from at least 4 or 5 different places. So I know Jags are going to travel. I know we know who has to be stopped, what the task is at hand. We'll make sure we hit that. Give some attaboys to people in segment 2 and do a little bit of reflection on what happened the other night. But right now, I want to start this by we're celebrating Dr. King's birthday. So most people are off, and it's fitting. We'll get to my Dr. King tribute in a second, but it's fitting that most people are off because not literally, but emotionally, this city is all doing that Beyonce dance. You know, that one, I feel like falling in love. You know what I'm saying? And everybody's dancing and doing the good videos, because I've seen some of them, by the way, where there's some people that need some serious dance lessons and some people that don't have one bit of rhythm. Okay. I'm talking about the good ones you've seen, though. It's like we've been doing the electric slide since the game ended, since midnight Saturday. We haven't actually been doing it, or the Cupid Shuffle, or if you like my boy Ross Jackson, shout out to Ross Jackson from the Locked On Saints. If you're from New Orleans, they're doing second line, whatever celebratory. I've seen somebody saying that the cities that we all done caught the Holy Ghost. That too, whatever celebratory dance move, line dance, second line, Cupid Shuffle, I feel like falling in love, the Beyonce challenge or whatever they did. I feel like this city is still riding that wave. That is the vibe right now for everybody. You got Trevor Lawrence, who people said wouldn't love Jacksonville. It ain't nothing to do. Walking all up in one of my favorite Waffle Houses at 1 o'clock in the morning, like he just came from the club, just chilling with the people in Waffle House. At least him and his crew know not to start a fight with them, because I've been telling people, don't fight nobody at Waffle House or Popeyes, because you are going to lose. I don't know where they train those people to fight. Anyway, this is the Jaguar podcast. Let's get back. We are celebrating. I don't know if we're celebrating beating Tennessee combined with and winning the division and going to the playoffs, combining that with winning a historic game where he came from so far behind. If you take those two things together, I don't know if that's more important than what I'm about to tell you, believe it or not. I think they're celebrating the fact that they didn't just we didn't win the division and make the playoffs. You know what they did? They stepped into being good. The players in the organization, it's almost as if with these last 2 weeks, I envision in my mind Dewey Wingard, number 42, climbing through 3 football fields of manure and broke out of Shawshank and stood up with his shirt off, put his hands up and said, "It was always the Jags. It's always been us." And it's not just about the last 2 weeks. It's about the last 2 decades. Andy Dufresne spent 19 years in prison for something he didn't do. It feels like when he came out of that and he was finally out. Now, he hadn't arrived in Mexico yet. He's not on the beach, but he knew he was out. He knew he was free at that moment. I feel like the Jaguar fans and this organization finally came out, and I say they got out of Shawshank, right? I don't know if that's what they're celebrating or we're celebrating here in the city, or if it's just celebrating these last 2 wins because it just feels so good to win. But I think the reason why it's so elongated and it lasts for so long, and I think the reason why they're so confident, is because I believe that they think that they are free from being captive to football purgatory all of these years. It's a feeling of, you know what it feels like? It feels like I've been going for a whole year. I've been battling different stuff and finding out what's wrong with me. I think we figured it out. And there's this relief. Like, I'm still not out of the woods, like in terms of pain. I ain't gonna die, but I figured it out. Now I just got to go see a pain management specialist and find out what my alternatives are. But there's something about finally knowing what your diagnosis truly is instead of just guessing, right? I think the Jaguar fan base finally knows that they're going to be good for a while. And that they're going to get used to sitting in this comfortable recliner and watching their football team play well. Before we get to segment 2, Martin Luther King was murdered when he was 39 years old. We're celebrating his birthday today. I'm 53. I think I've been an okay guy. I think I have a passion for other people. But I've had 14 years more than him, and I feel like when I think about his legacy, I haven't done much. So as we celebrate today, my only advice to you is this. I love that I Have a Dream speech. If you want to know more about him, listen to something else. Listen to other speeches, and it'll give you the depth of who he really was and why we're celebrating today. So happy birthday, Dr. King. Thank you to his family for sharing him with us and for him being the living human inspiration that has really helped me. He was one of the few people that I substituted for my dad, who I did not meet until I was 38 because he went to Vietnam and he didn't know I existed. There's a handful of men, black men, and Dr. King's at the top of that list. So celebrate today, enjoy, and I will tell you in just a second a little bit more about what's going on with Jacksonville, give you some kudos to some of the players who might not get recognized or be given recognition for a lot of the things that they did that really helped this team be in a position where they're going to be doing the Cupid Shuffle for a while, at least until they travel this Sunday and go to Arrowhead. And I'm going to tell you right now, Jaguars ain't scared. They ain't scared one bit. They are not afraid one bit. I'll tell you more in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. I first have to let you know that today's sponsor is PrizePicks. That's right, man. If you want to win you some money, you better do it at PrizePicks, because it's so easy, because you're not messing around with 11 other dudes in some fantasy league. It's just you playing daily fantasy sports, and it's you and the computer. It's you and PrizePicks. That's it. So it's daily fantasy. What they do is they place entries and player projections on those entries, right? If you had Trevor Lawrence throwing for more than 2 interceptions, you won. Be ironic if you had Trevor Lawrence throwing for more than 2 or 3 touchdowns, because you would have won that too. You have to go more or less than what the player projections put on each entry. Now, download the PrizePicks app, or you can go online and play it. But either way, here's what you do. You download the app, and then you use the promo code Locked On. That's right, the promo code Locked On. Now, at sign up for first-time users, you can receive a 100% instant deposit match of up to $100 with the promo code Locked On. Here's what you do. You pick 2 to 5 players. If they score more or less and you get them all right, you can win up to 10 times your money. If you choose the flex option, you can drop 1 or 2 and you'll still get some return back. It's safe and fast withdrawals, currently operational in over 30 states and Canada. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It is that easy. Big game tonight. Dallas, Tampa. A lot of moving parts in that game, offensively and defensively. Make sure you go to prizepicks.com and get it done, man. That's what you got to do. Go to prizepicks.com. Make sure you sign up and use the promo code Locked On. Today's sponsor for our show is also BetterHelp. This is very, very important. Have you ever been in a situation where you've had some issues or some trouble, maybe dealing with a family member, or your own unfortunate things happen, and you just don't know where to turn, and you just don't know where to start, and just don't know how to figure it out? Tell you what you need to do is talk to a therapist, and you can reach a therapist by going to BetterHelp. Life just doesn't come with a user manual sometimes, and sometimes you need to figure out a way to get back to being you, and that's what the therapists are trained to do. They give you coping skills, and it makes therapy the closest thing to a guided tour of the complex engine called you. BetterHelp has connected over 3 million people with licensed therapists. It's convenient, secure, accessible anywhere, and it's 100% online. Now, not just through a divorce. I just told you guys I deal with pain management from some old military injuries, and it's kind of catching up with me. You don't think that stuff can depress you? You're crazy. You can really, really be depressed, and you can really, really not understand how to cope and deal with the pain, and how to cope and deal with the fact that you've changed a little bit and you have to figure it out. I know that everyone deserves to feel their best, and BetterHelp makes it easier to get started. Learn more and save 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. No waiting rooms, no traffic, no endless searching for the right therapist. It couldn't be simpler. BetterHelp.com/lockedon. All right, man, we're rolling along here, and we're still celebrating, of course. Everybody is still just as happy as they can be about the way things have turned out for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And it is not just because the Jaguars are advancing, even though that has a lot to do with it. A lot of it also has to do with the fact that they have made a step in a direction that makes this run feel like the beginning of what is going to be a long, long run towards being relevant. And the reason for that is, of course, you have a young 22, 23-year-old quarterback that has grown up right before our eyes, and he is living up to the promise of his press clippings, and that is Trevor Lawrence. You also have a coach in Doug Peterson who, if you're around him, you want to run through a brick wall for him, even if you don't play football. I don't recommend that you do that, but I still can tell you that my personal experience with being in the room with him, you can understand why guys play for him. You can also understand why when players get behind by 3 touchdowns and he is their coach, you can also understand how they were able to do it. One of the things that folks are saying, like, I wonder what he said at halftime. Well, he later told them what he said at halftime, and I'll paraphrase it, but he says, look, stay together. Take it one play at a time. The defense is going to do their job, and we're going to score points. And they believed it. Shout out to Doug Peterson. This is a long ways away from telling guys they're going to be pumping gas or they're going to be making $15 an hour if they get cut. Which, by the way, none of it was true. Because when you cut a guy that's got guaranteed money, you got to pay him. And then guess what? As soon as you cut him, somebody else is going to pick him up. So the ridiculousness of some of the things that Urban Meyer said to these guys last year really makes this change and this turnaround. It really shows you the impact of Doug Peterson. But more than that, it shows you how much of an idiot Urban Meyer was. And the other thing to remind you of is this. Sometimes we blame players when we shouldn't. Sometimes we blame coaches when we shouldn't. The fact that a coach could make this much of a difference in this team and have players performing the way that they're performing. The fact that those guys shut the defense, shut the offense down in the second half the other day, sometimes tells you that maybe some of the criticism of Mike Caldwell isn't warranted, because we don't know if somebody's just not doing what they're supposed to do. But I guess at the end of the day, you can still blame that on the coach, because if guys keep making mistakes, you got to make the consequences dire so they won't make those mistakes, or motivate them to not make those mistakes. But by the same token, these are grown men, and at some point, it's got to be on them. I'll tell you in segment 3 whether or not, if the Jaguars play their absolute best, if they have a chance, in my opinion, to beat the Chiefs. But first, we have to talk about some of the people who are doing exactly the things that I just mentioned and not really getting a lot of credit for it, because they play positions that aren't the prime positions. How about Luke Fortner, a rookie center who's played every single snap this year? His availability and the fact that while he's not the strongest guy in the world, he's extremely technical and extremely smart. And the quickest way to get to the quarterback, by the way, is through him, and he prevents that from happening. Kudos to him. How about Tyler Shatley, who I have crushed? I praise him for being a guy who's going to be on the team, I think, until 2077. He's going to get a 1-year deal, a 1 or 2 year deal. But by the same token, I don't think he's a starting caliber guard for a team that consistently wants to try to win a championship. But you haven't noticed much of him getting beat, maybe a little bit. But he played against some pretty good players the last couple of weeks, and he's held his own. He hasn't been a total liability. How about the 1 or 2 plays for Marvin Jones Jr.? And we talked about that. We talked about Marvin Jones as one of those guys who could make some plays, make some tough catches in critical situations. People are like, wait, what did he do? He had 3 catches for 29 yards and 1 touchdown. Go look at the catches he made and when he made them. How about Jamal Agnew, who we mentioned last week? It was going to be critical for Jamal Agnew. How about him? Jamal Agnew started returning those kicks. It seemed like at some point, even if it was 8-9 yards deep, he was going to return them out, and he was getting that thing to the 35-yard line. And that field position absolutely helped the Jaguars. How about Trey Herndon, who was playing in a slot the other night, and while he didn't make an interception, he also wasn't being destroyed. What about Floyd Oluwakan, who continues to be a tackling machine? Shout out to all those guys and a number of other people that I may not have mentioned. How about Foley Fadukasi, who made a big sack, even though Trayvon got in trouble, pushed the quarterback down, and got a penalty. And Arden Key, who keeps being a guy who's batting balls down, who keeps being active. Shout out to those guys too. I know everyone noticed it and saw it. All right, I want to talk about this trip that they're going to have to make to KC. I want somebody to take it upon themselves to tell me that they are going to be the ones that are going to go out and test the barbecue. Who's willing to eat 4 straight meals of barbecue? Anybody is willing to eat 4 straight meals of barbecue? Because the only way you get a report card is you gotta go eat the stuff. You can't just. I'll give you money if you do it. Hit me up on Twitter. If you're going to KC, I'm tell you what, I'm gonna hold that back and I'm gonna tell you because I will do that. I will absolutely do that. I'll pay for 1 or 2 of y'all. I ain't gonna pay for 4 or 5 people to go and stuff their face with pork. But I will. That sounds funny. But I will be the guy to say, you know what? If y'all do a little barbecue test for me, I'll send you some money to go ahead and do that. And we'll put the results. I'll even have y'all come on the podcast next week. Anybody wants to do it, let me know. All right, man. I got to let you know today's sponsor is the Ultimate Football GM. If you're really geeked about football, which you are, if you're a Jaguar fan, you should love what our new partner and sponsor has. They have a mobile game called Ultimate Football GM. I used it on my flight back and forth to DC last week, and I had a wonderful time doing it. I ran like 8 seasons, 4 seasons there, 4 seasons back. I was a terrible GM, by the way, because I didn't do all the things I need to do. But you can. All you got to do is hire the right coaches and coordinators, get the right trades when you trade for players with compensation, make draft picks, control your salary cap, and navigate your franchise through free agency and the drafts and the ups and downs of a season. All this in a challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Football GM is completely free and playable offline. Play on the go as you want and when you want to. I just told you I played in airplane mode while I was in the friendly skies. Locked On Jaguars listeners get a 100% free bonus or boost to their franchise when using the promo code Locked On in the game store. That's Locked On, all caps. So make sure you check it out today. To download the game, just visit ultimate-gm.com or look it up in the app stores. That's ultimate-gm.com. Ultimate Football GM. Start your dynasty today. And start your day with me here on Locked On Jaguars because you make us your first listen. It's your team every day, and we absolutely appreciate you making us your first listen. Now I want you to make your second listen Locked On Sports Today. That's right. On Locked On NFL. It's Locked On Sports Today with Peter Bukowski. You want big stories? There's a bunch of them out there right now. The biggest stories from around the world of sports, all done in less than 30 minutes. It's like a shot of espresso every single morning. So make sure wherever you get your podcast on the Odyssey app or here or there, make sure you like and subscribe to the Locked On Sports Today show and say hello to Peter Bukowski. All right. Jags got to travel. The no fear, comeback, cardiac cats, whatever you want to call them, they're going to travel this week. I don't suspect that anyone wants to make a living getting behind. In fact, this first 7-8 weeks of the season, I spent showing you a blueprint of what the Jaguars had to do if they wanted to be successful. They've totally done the total opposite and have been successful. So little do I know. The one thing they have done is they've shown you that they play for each other, they play for their coach, and they really, really stick together. And they have no fear, even when they have fear that they're supposed to have. They're not scared. They ain't scared of nothing. Nothing. You hear me? These guys are not afraid. I don't think they're going to be afraid to go to Kansas City. I don't think they're going to be afraid to face Andy Reid. I don't think they're going to be afraid or worried about Patrick Mahomes. I don't think they give a damn about Travis Kelce. I think they're going to show them the respect that they need to show them. But by the same token, they're going to say, we are the Jaguars. Y'all need to respect us. Kansas City doesn't have the greatest defense in the world. They got a few great players on their defense. And they can be opportunistic, especially when they know the offense can score. So they kind of play a little bit loose, but they give you chances and opportunities. I'm not going to give you a prediction right now, but I'll tell you the Jaguars need to get off to a fast start. The Jaguars need to make sure that they at least bother Patrick Mahomes. They need to find Travis Kelce, but they also don't need to be put to sleep by not worrying about the running game and then all of a sudden get eaten up by the run with Pacheco and those guys. And the Chiefs did make a trade for Kadarius Toney, and he has a propensity to make some big plays, so they got to really, really watch out for that. But I'm confident in this team. If there's one team that you tell me, name one team that could beat them, in Kansas City in this round, I take Jacksonville over anybody. The other thing is Doug Peterson is a master of timeouts, situational football. So that's why I'm super, super, super confident that they'll be. Tomorrow, I'll name my stars again, the guys that have to be good again. And give you a scenario on Wednesday of what I think should happen if they're going to win. Of course, Thursday, we'll have our crossover show. Friday, we'll have our last thought. Last but not least, my Twitter is at Shop Talking Wig. There have been people that are telling me for years that Kansas City, where I've never been, has the best barbecue in the world. Now, I like cooking. I cook Kansas City style, even though I've never been there and had it. I've watched enough videos. More than North Carolina and more than Memphis or more than Texas, the type of barbecuing I like to do is Kansas City. Now, I don't necessarily use tomato-based, the red tomato sauce I don't necessarily use it. I don't run from it, but I'm a little bit more, first of all, I cook my meat without sauce, but when I do, it's a little mixture of mustard, tomatoes, and molasses. So who's going? If anybody's going, I need 4 I heard they're all on the same street, by the way. All the barbecue spots are on the same street. If somebody's going, I'll send you some bread. You hit me up, DM me, tell me you're interested. Put hashtag BBQ contest when you hit me up. If you're going. And y'all, look, I love y'all, but if you ain't going to the game, don't be sending me all your recommendations for barbecue in Kansas City. I know you love it. It ain't gonna do me no good for this. I'll be like, thank you, I appreciate it. I like it, but I'm really interested in people who are going, who want to sit down and eat some barbecue and tell me where the best is. Because I hope we go up there and eat all their food and then whoop them and come back home with a full stomach. All right, that's what I want. Make sure you tune in every single day. Of course, the press conference goes off in 2 minutes. I don't have a helicopter, so even though the stadium's 7-8 minutes away, it'll probably take me 20 minutes to walk in because of the way I walk right now. But I will have some stuff from the presser tomorrow. Who knows? They might just be over there dancing. They might have a Soul Train line going on over there with the media and all the coaches. I don't know. But in any event, we're all still happy. I know you're happy too. Make sure you tune in tomorrow here on Locked On Jaguars. I have more to you as the Jaguars prepare to go to the second round of the playoffs and play the Chiefs at Arrowhead. Take care of each other. Holler back tomorrow here, same time, same place.